Hey guys, if you missed my face from last week since we didn't have a video, here it is. Again, I know I say this every time, but I definitely miss your guys' faces. This whole thing is just crazy and it really does take the fun out of teaching. So I'm really excited for next year when I will hopefully get to see your faces. So please, Lord, let this Corona thing end. But one thing from this, and I really hope that you feel this way about yourself, is how proud you should be of the students you guys have become through all of this. I was talking with my roommate a few days ago about how hard this has to be for you guys. I can't imagine learning online when I was in high school. I don't know if I would have had the tenacity and the resilience that you guys have had. And so I just want you guys to know how proud I am of you, because this has not only been a very challenging thing just with technology, but also for some of you to really come out of your shell and be realistic with yourself about when you need help and asking for it. So I really think this has been a very wild ride, but I think it's also making us stronger teachers and stronger students, because we now have to think outside of the box. When being in a school building, we may not have had this kind of opportunity to do so. So I really hope that you guys are proud of yourself for what you've accomplished so far. And I hope that you continue to find the motivation to keep working. I know that for me especially, I kind of want to lay on the couch some days, and I have to force myself to do the things that I need to do. So if you find yourself in that mood of like, God, I just don't want to get out of bed, understand that it's completely normal, but also do something that you enjoy. Even though my dog hates it, going on another walk with my dog just kind of brightens my day. Now that the weather is nice, it's a whole lot easier. Maybe it's just going out and shooting a basketball, or even just playing catch with yourself with a baseball or softball. Video games on lines with your friend, like just something that you enjoy, because this is such a hard time to just be completely separate from everything that we're used to and everyone that we're used to. So I hope that you are finding that motivation and you are continuing to work, but you're also finding time to enjoy the little things that we kind of take for granted at times. So we are getting close to being done. We just have a few weeks left. So we got this week and next week is kind of a review for seniors if you're a senior. But for the rest of you, we're going to be doing regular stuff this week and next week. And then that third week is going to be final review. And then that last 3 days, the 18th, the 19th, and 20th, will be your final. So one of those days, whenever you get a chance, you'll take that final. So again, hope that you're doing awesome, and good luck this week. All right. Last week, we talked about how to graph in Slope-Intercept Form. This week, we are going to actually change our standard form, which is the first form that you guys learned when you guys graphed intercepts. We're going to learn how to change it from this form to this form. So like I said, this is your standard form. So normally it was some number equals some number in front of x plus some number in front of y. And I had you guys solve for x, solve for y. Those were your two intercepts. So I'll put in parentheses here, intercepts. So over here, this form was what you guys were pretty comfortable with. This was our slope-intercept. And of course, Lady decides right now is the perfect time to eat. So ignore her, I'm sorry. All right, so we are going from this form to this form. So if you notice, y is by itself over here. So really all this is a fancy process, I guess, for solving for y. So think of it as an equation. So in number 1, I am trying to get this y by itself. So this is your example from day 1, that worksheet. So number 1, we're trying to get y by itself. So I'm gonna save this and I wanna focus on this 3x first. So the opposite of a 3x is a negative 3x. So over here, I have a negative 3x. Now, looking over here, 6 and 3x, those are not like terms because 6 does not have an x like 3 does. So I can't combine those two. So they just kind of stay over there by themselves. So now 2y is over here because those 3x's canceled. And now I have these two. But if I'm going to write it in mx plus b form, I want the 6 to come last, and I want the number with x to go first. That way it's mx, just like negative 3x, and then b, so 6. So I'm actually gonna switch the order of these. So I'm gonna write negative 3x first, then I'm gonna write this positive 6. So again, these two I bring down, I just reordered them. I wanted the x to come first and the number to go last. That way it was in this form here. So now the only thing I have to get rid of is 2. To do that, I would divide, but over here I have 2 things. So that means both of them have to be divided by 2. So those cancel, which leaves me with y equals, that's what I wanted. And then m, if you remember, stands for slope. We like slopes to be in fractions. So if I try to divide negative 3 and 2, it would give me a decimal. And let me just show you that in my calculator real fast. I don't want a decimal, so I'm just going to leave it as a fraction. Okay, so negative 3 over 2x, but I'm not gonna leave this as a fraction because 6 can be divided by 2. 6 divided by 2 is a positive 3. So if you notice, we started off in this standard form. Now we have something that is in slope-intercept form. So this is my final answer here. Okay, so I'm gonna move on over here to number 2, and I'm gonna kind of show number 1 as well so we have an example to look back on. Now, x, if you notice, doesn't have a number, so I'm gonna put a 1 in front of it. That way it does. Now, just like over here, I'm gonna focus on that x first. So since this is a positive 1x, I'm gonna make it a negative 1x. That way they cancel. And that leaves me with negative 2y, okay, because we don't want to forget this negative here. And then equals, now again, I want to write the x first, just like I did with negative 3. I want to write negative 1x first. And then I want to write this negative 10, because I want it to be in that slope-intercept form, the mx plus b form. Okay. So now I'm ready to get rid of negative 2. And just like the first one, I divide this side by negative 2, but since there's 2 pieces on this side, they both need to be divided by negative 2. So I'm left with y equals, once again, I have negative 1 divided by negative 2, which again gives me a decimal, so I don't want that. But if you notice, they're both negatives. A negative divided by a negative is the same as a positive. So I'm just gonna write it as positive 1/2 instead of negative 1 over negative 2, because these negatives would cancel each other out. And then negative 10 divided by negative 2 would be positive 5. So there is my answer to that one. So we always start with the x, and we always save the number in front of y for last. Rule of thumb right there. So let's do another example. Let's look at number 3. So just like what we did with this 1 on number 2, I'm going to do the same thing with y. It doesn't have a number, so I'm going to write a 1. And just like my other examples, I start with x. So the opposite of 3x would be negative 3x. Negative 3x. So my 3x's cancel. I'm just left with 1y. And then again, I want to reorder these. So I'm going to write this negative 3x first, and then the negative 5. Now, 1y is just the same as y, so really you could be done from here, but just to kind of show you, I'm still just going to divide it by 1 and then both pieces by 1 on the other side. But we really don't have to do it if it's 1 because it really doesn't change the answer. Now, here, if I do it in my calculator, negative 3 divided by 1, if you notice, this is not a fraction. So I don't need to write it as a fraction. Since it didn't give me a decimal, I'm just writing what my calculator gave me. The other ones gave us a decimal, that's why we left it like this. But again, didn't get a decimal, so I'm going to write the actual answer. And then negative 5 divided by 1 is just negative 5. So again, like I said, you really didn't need to divide it by 1. I was just doing that to just make the process the same as all the others. Okay, and then let's do one more because I think you'll get it after those 3, but just in case. Once again, if there's no numbers in front of x and y, I'm gonna put 1s there. So this one I have to put a 1 in front of x and a 1 in front of y. And then I'm focusing on x first, so I gotta get rid of that first. So the opposite of 1x is a negative 1x. So I'm gonna have a negative 1x on this side. And they cancel out, so that leaves me with negative 1y. So don't forget your negative. And then I reorder these. So negative 1x comes first, and then negative 3. So same things, just reordered, just like the others. And this time I'm getting rid of negative 1. So I'm dividing each part by negative 1. So that cancels that out, and I'm left with y. In my calculator, I'm dividing negative 1 by negative 1. And as you can see, it doesn't give me a decimal, so I'm gonna just write my answer and then bring down the x. And then negative 3 divided by negative 1 is a positive 3, so I'm gonna write plus 3. And there is our answer. So that is how we go from standard form to intercept form, because as you guys saw, graphing in slope-intercept form really wasn't a whole lot of work because it gave you your b and it gave you your slope, so it was very easy to graph. So that is why we do this, is just to make it easier for us to graph. So if you have questions, feel free to email me. We can schedule Zooms or whatever it is you guys need. Just let me know. Good luck.